It's a mole.
You die, I guess. Most of them do.
No, I never paid much attention to it. Well, none of my family and friends ever had it.
I heard something on TV about it once.
Well, they ignore it, I think. Most people do.
Is it a sore or infection?
Why don't they publicize it more? I mean, who knows about it?
Well, after you found out you've got it, you just have to go home and sweat it out.
Well, I'm gonna die from air pollution anyway.
We're all like that, really. You never stop to think about it until you've got it, or until it's too late. And then you think, well, if I'd have done this, or I'd have done that.
This guy that I know worried himself sick before he even went and found out.
You mean young people really get it?
Well, I guess I really didn't understand at first. My family and friends were real upset. When my dad told me what was wrong, I just looked at him. So what, you know? Then he told me, look, you stand a chance of dying.
Weren't you scared?
When I look back on it all now, it seems like a long time ago. Yeah, I think I was scared. But I didn't want everybody else to put up with my fears. So about the only thing I could do was be as cool as possible. And my parents, they didn't know what to do. They were grabbing for anything, just do something. So as soon as we were told that I could go to Houston, to Anderson, that they had facilities to handle this sort of thing, my parents said, that's great. Of course, my doctor didn't want to give me a lot of big hopes that I could go down there and get some great new treatment and be cured. But gosh, anything would be better than just sitting there. When we got to Houston, my dad had a talk with me. He said, look, you just do what you feel you can do. If you think you can combat this thing, you've got to try. Of course, you don't just stop worrying about these things. You don't just change your mind like that. Well, when I was in the hospital, I got to where all I could see was just staying there forever. Then this boy walked in. He looked just as normal as I do right now. He told me he had cancer and then started telling me about going swimming, going to a dance one night. And I thought, I've got to do some of this too, you know? I guess it wasn't a week later till my doctor came in and told me my cancer was under control, that I could start going out of the hospital. I think that boy coming in when he did really helped my attitude. Here he was, really doing fantastically well and all. Why not me too? And you know, it's real funny. Once in a while, even now, a doctor will ask me to go talk to someone with cancer. A kid or somebody that the doctors feel, well, they need help of some kind. That they'd better get off this feeling sorry for themselves and see that maybe there's a brighter side to what they're going through. I even took a guy fishing once so we could talk. I tried to explain to him, look, I went through this and I'm just as normal as possible right now. All you've got to do is just help the doctors fight this thing. Because, you see, I fought it just as hard as they're fighting it. And I'll explain to them that I've already gone through exactly what they're going through. Being in the hospital, taking those treatments. There have been some people I felt like I really helped. Of course, it's still got to come from within them. During that summer, when I first went to Houston, the thing that was in my mind was that if I could just understand what I was fighting, I could do a better job. Sure, the doctors do the fighting, but you can help too. They were real good about explaining things to me and my parents because they don't want you to be afraid. They want you to know what's going on. You see, before I got cancer, all I knew was a few things about cells, and that's it. Oh, I knew about tumors being cancer and stuff. But as far as these cells going haywire, I had no idea about why or anything like that. Of course, a lot of this stuff was hard to understand, but we just kept asking. Explain it again, you know? We just about drove this one doctor crazy. His way of explaining it was that just as individuals differ from each other in a community,
a person is made up of a community of cells that differ from each other. And each of the cells has a highly specialized function. That is, some of the cells work in the liver, other cells specialize in nerve functions, in visual functions, and so on. Then, of course, some of the cells act as a protective force, an army. They are trained to attack foreign invaders like disease or infection. They protect the whole community from anything invading or destroying it. But there has to be protection against inside troublemakers, too. It's as if someone does something wrong inside the community and causes a disturbance. Normally, our built-in police force or immunity mechanism has the ability to distinguish between bad cells and those which are normal and friendly, and will attack and destroy the cell that has become bad. Now, every once in a while, this police system of our body fails. And if you ask why this happens, then you're asking, what's the cause of cancer? Okay, we know that cancer is a disease of cells. Well, cells are constantly copying themselves as they grow. This is like making copies of letters or papers that you're typing. Suppose you make one mistake in spelling. Call it a mutation. Now, most of the time, this one error, this mutation, will not affect, in a fundamental way, the comprehension of a sentence. You can get the meaning and not be terribly disturbed by the error. But if you make an error that is really a significant error, then that error makes the message entirely different. So we're talking about cell mutation now. Cells that get copied wrong, you might say. These cells are weak and usually die. But occasionally, a mutation gives a supercapacity, which the cell can use to multiply in an abnormal way and ignore certain messages. This is a cancer cell. Basically, the cancer cell is growing in competition with normal cells. It's no longer a friend. They are not working together. The cancer cell simply stops following the rules. It stops doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it tends to copy itself. The cancer cell is only helping itself. This is the inside troublemaker we were talking about. Now, suppose the cancer cells are able to get well organized. Say even 10 of them accumulate in the tissues. Cancer actually exists because the cancer cells are able to ignore the attacks and the efforts to control them. Next, this mass of malignant or cancerous cells, now a tumor, will collect first at one point by simply growing as a fungus grows. When there are enough of these cancer cells, they will begin to invade blood vessels. They will get into the blood and they will spread to distant organs and set up satellite colonies. That's when you've got widespread cancer. So now the mass, this tumor, whether it's localized or widespread, interferes with community function. It can, for example, steal essential nutrients from normal cells. That is, trap important proteins so that the cells that need them don't ever get enough. This tumor can keep the cells of an organ from working normally, like making blood and so on. It quite literally gets in the way of things working. And that's what the whole problem of cancer is about.
I think the information the doctor gave me really helped. I at least had some idea of what I was fighting. And of course, I asked a lot of questions about what they were doing to combat cancer. This one doctor told me that there are several proven effective ways to control cancer, but the most effective way was what he called early detection or early diagnosis. In other words, getting to the doctor when you first know something is wrong instead of waiting, especially before this fear thing becomes a major problem along with the cancer. Well, then the doctor went on to tell me about the methods used to actually treat cancer.
Let me tell you something about surgery first. If you can identify a tumor at the time it is in only one area of the body, and if you can remove it in an operation so there are no cancer cells left, then that can be the end of the cancer. In other words, just get rid of it. Another method of control is radiotherapy. Radiotherapy uses the energy in radiation, radiant energy that is, to actually destroy cancer cells. If the tumor is in an organ such as a breast or in a limb, enough radiant energy can be directed at the tumor and surrounding tissues so that the abnormal cells will all be eliminated. Now, in chemotherapy, the third method of control in cancer, you do exactly what you do with penicillin. You send a chemical, a medicine or drug, through the blood and tissue fluids. You actually interfere with or control or in some way change the behavior of the tumor cells and sometimes not affect the normal cells at all. You see, chemotherapy treatment has the ability to reach the individual cells. With this chemical, you can go to all parts of the body.
Well, I got so interested that I started reading and studying about cancer as much as I could. I still am. I'm going to physician's assistant school now. Before I had cancer, I was majoring in business, but then I switched to biology and started doing 10 times as well. It all means a lot more now, I think. It's that way with a lot of people who've had cancer. There's a girl I know who had surgery a while back. She's in college now and is involved in things like everybody else. She said she even appreciated just going to school and studying more than she did. You know, the fact that she's able to go back and do these things we normally take for granted or even don't always want to do. Yes. Well, when I got out of the hospital, I went back home. That's when I started playing golf every day. When I started out, after being in the hospital, my muscles were just ridiculous. I'd always managed to stay in pretty good condition. Then when I got sick, well, I couldn't imagine it. I didn't have any muscles. What's happened? I'm gonna die. You know, it just scared me. So I thought, well, if I can just build myself back up. I was taking treatments and all, sure, but I did everything and took treatments too. I just had to realize that I'd have to battle through it. But that's when I decided I'm going to do everything I can to be as normal as possible.
What made you decide to get married?
I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a family. I think this is a natural thing for a young man. But gee, here I was thinking, should I do this to this girl? Should I get married? I want to live a normal life. Should I? Is it my right? Everybody's attitude seems to be, look, you've got cancer. You don't have the right to live a normal life. I finally just made up my mind. All right, I've got cancer. But that's not going to keep me from being just like everybody else. So we decided to get married. We kind of had these plans anyway, and just decided, why ruin them? And Doll, you know, she didn't have any reservations about having children. This was a big thing in my mind. I really wanted to have some children. And of course now we have 2 beautiful kids. It worked out great. I look at it this way. To live like I was not normal would be kind of a sin, wouldn't it? One of the most normal people I know is this girl in West Texas who had cancer surgery when she was a baby. She's a senior in high school now, and she's the top player on her school's tennis team. She plays golf, too, swims, leads an active social life, makes good grades. She's planning on going to college next year. And she likes to win, just like everybody else. So that's what I'm saying. Having cancer doesn't mean you can't live a normal life. There are probably a lot of people running around who are not as normal as I am. in some respects. Like, say, people with diabetes, heart problems. At least that's the way I look at it. Our family life's pretty much the same as anybody else's. Doll and the kids and I try to get out in the country a lot, going fishing and stuff like that. We go to parties on the weekends, just like everybody else. We look forward to going to these parties. Going out of town to visit relatives. With our income, we like to go visit relatives. I have been skiing a couple of times, at Christmas, you know. Mostly I try to get in as much golf as I can. Me being in school has kind of held us back from doing a lot of other things. Boating would be my biggest hobby if I could afford it. Water skiing and stuff like that. I really enjoy life. It's like I never heard of cancer. It's that way with a lot of people. Take this kid over in East Texas. He had part of his liver removed because of cancer when he was less than a year old. You'd never know it to look at him. And he works as hard as he plays. Last summer he worked on a farm putting up hay. Of course, anybody having cancer has to make some adjustments here and there. I had to. But gosh, everybody's going to have a streak of bad luck now and then, even if they don't have cancer. We'll always have our ups and downs. You can't help but have them. Like going for that big raise and not getting it. It hurts. But it would hurt whether I had cancer or not. I don't expect my life to change just because I've been a patient, or still am. I expect to get the same treatment that anybody else does. Let me tell you about this girl in South Texas who feels the same as I do. After she had cancer surgery, she got help from the Rehabilitation Commission to go through college so she could teach school. She says the biggest thing in her mind is that after you go through something like she has, or polio or anything like that, that people shouldn't just make up their minds about what you can and can't do, but they should get to know you as a person. Like out on the playground with the kids, for example. She says you don't just set a child down on the steps and leave him while everybody else plays. Well, it's that way with adults, too. It's important not to be left out of things. There's something I used to feel. I'm kind of ashamed of it now, because it was pretty stupid. But for a long time, I didn't want anyone to know that I had cancer. So I wouldn't tell anybody, and I didn't want any of my friends who knew to say anything. I felt that I didn't want to be rejected just because of that. As I said, that was pretty dumb. But other people's attitudes can be pretty dumb too. I'll tell you this little story that's kind of funny. There was this job, it was a part-time job, and I interviewed for it, and I got it, they wanted me. So I went through it and signed all the papers and everything. And where this one paper showed a place to put major diseases, well, I put down cancer. This woman was checking all my papers and reading along. She got to that, and she kind of looked at me strange. And I thought, what's wrong? She said, you've got down here that you have cancer. And I said, that's right, I've had it for nearly 5 years now. Then she said, you're putting me on, aren't you? She didn't believe me. I mean, she flat didn't believe me. Then she said, I'm going to put down here that you can't be hired. This kind of shocked me. Well, why? This is ridiculous. She made some kind of excuses. I could have done the job easy, but she sure made a fast decision when she saw the word cancer.
Well, are you cured?
No, I'm not cured. There are a lot of people who can't understand this. These people I haven't seen for years. They'll say, well, gosh, Ken, what happened? You don't have cancer after all, huh? Or they'll say, well, you're cured. Here you are doing all these things. You've got 2 kids. I keep saying, now wait a minute, I'm not cured. They're doing great things at Anderson, and everything's going great, but I'm not cured. They've got my cancer controlled, a lot of other people's too, but I have to keep telling them that over and over. You know, it's really funny, some of the attitudes people have. Well, for example, there's this girl in East Texas. It's hard to make people realize that kids her age can have cancer as well as older people. She had surgery when she was a baby. People ask her about the scar on her arm, and she tells them that that's when she had surgery for cancer. She says a lot of people think she's lying. If people are surprised to find out that a 14-year-old has cancer, how about a 4-year-old? This little girl I know had surgery for cancer when she was only 16 days old. Maybe by the time she grows up, people's attitudes toward cancer will be different. It seems to me that most of us develop the attitudes we have towards something by hearing things as we grow up. I think the little things that kids pick up about cancer have mostly to do with fear. Parents will be talking about being afraid. So-and-so died of cancer. It'll just scare kids more than anything. I have to admit, that's how I heard about cancer. But this is really all you hear about it most of the time. Someone died. Almost like if we all go across the street and one of us gets hit. You don't hear about the ones who made it across. You hear about the one who didn't. Bad news, you know? Of course, from what I've learned since I've been involved with cancer, it's a lot different today than it was when older people were growing up. Not that it's all a rosy picture. People do die from it, sure, but they die from a lot of other things too. The thing that tears me up is people knowing something's wrong and not doing anything about it. Just letting fear eat them up. What's so tragic about it is that a lot less people would die of cancer if it weren't for this kind of attitude. You know, we've had friends who have had symptoms come up. They'll start to worry. Some of Doll's girlfriends, for example, will even ask her to ask me, what should I do? My gosh, what can you do except go to the doctor and find out? It's hard to make them understand, you know?